Let's go live. Okay. Looks like we're all set. Go live. Hello, everyone. Good evening. How are you doing? Facebook, Instagram. Good evening. Hello. Thank you for joining. Good evening. If you're here, please say hi. Okay, we're back here. Good evening. How are you doing? Welcome. If you're here, please say hi. If you're on Facebook, say hi. If you're on Instagram, say hi. Hi, uh, hi, Ayaba. I know that sometimes the names on on Instagram are not like the exact names, so it's kind of tricky. Good evening. How are you doing? If I said your name incorrectly, forgive me. How are you doing? Good evening. Okay. Okay, now I can see comments on Facebook. Oops. I'm gonna mute that. Okay, cool. Hello. How y'all doing? Tonight we're having a Q&A session, so no presentations, just chatting. So I need you to send over your questions. In the meantime, I actually have some questions already that I get asked frequently that we could start off with. And I believe I have those. Let's see. Okay, cool. And it's all about deals, right? Good evening. Just in case you haven't met me before, seen me before, my name is Yinka Olumorin. I am a real estate investor and a coach on the Acquire Real Estate platform. And yeah, what we do is do real estate investing deals year round, and that means that we're consistently looking at properties, analyzing and making deals happen, growing that generational wealth 1 month at a time. Hi, Nisha. Good evening. Hi, Yvonne. Good evening. Hi, Martin. Hello. Hey, Meg. How are you today? I am good. Hi, Tarsha. Good evening. Hello. If you're watching, yeah, good to see you too. It's been a little bit. It's been a while. Not a little bit. And yeah, I'm just showing up today to answer questions. If you have any questions, definitely type those in the comments and let's chat. And I have really good questions that I picked out here that I think would maybe help a lot of people as far as thinking on about real estate investing. Um, yes. So let me not get into it without introducing myself again. My name is Jinko Lumorin, and here we're really uh everything we do here is really about you and your investment goals. I'm thinking that if you're here, it's because you want to be a real estate investor or you are already a real estate investor. Maybe you're doing a deal or two, or you're completely a newbie and you're trying to really figure things out. So that's where I stand. I try to be on the newbie side of things where we simplify things a lot for you to get in, because getting in is the most important thing, right? Once you're in, you know what you're doing. you know what steps to take. The rest is really implementation and watching things unfold, right? All right, so that's why we're here, and tonight we'll just do Q&As again. Any questions can go in the comments and I will be checking. So I have a question here that says, how much do you think I need to have to get started in real estate? And by the way, I forgot to introduce Meg. Hi, Meg. Meg is my assistant, and she's going to take care of you. I believe she's watching the comments on Facebook and Instagram as well, if you need anything. Okay. So how much do you think I need to have to get started in real estate investing? That's a good question, because I think people think many times it's all about the money. Yes, properties are not free. You have to pay for them, right? But the good thing is there are a lot of stories, whether you believe them or not. There are a lot of stories of people starting from ground zero, having nothing and coming up with something. So along the way, you're talking partnerships, you're talking lending, and the kind of lending in real estate investing for business is different from the kind of lending you have on your personal home, your mortgage for your house that you live in. It's different because in the world of real estate investing, the lending there is not based on how much income you make to be able to pay back. Maybe you don't have that much, maybe you don't earn that much. So it will be sad for you to have to qualify to buy properties based on how much you're making. And that's why it doesn't work that way. So, what really works is you understanding that lending in the real estate investing world is asset based, which means that you'll have to look at the property and the numbers. When we're talking numbers, we're talking how much are you buying it for, how much are you remodeling it for, how much work does it need, how much would it appraise for. These are things you know ahead of time before you go in. And if things change in between, it's more like variables that you're still working with, and hopefully you have contingencies. So you have contingencies whether you're trying to hold a property or whether you're trying to actually sell the property. So you're either selling or holding properties. Okay, so that's how it works in the world of real estate investing. So you qualify based on the asset itself and not your own income. So how much you need to have? Typically, your lenders coming in can fund you up to 95% of the purchase price, and they will cover 100% of the rehab cost. And it's always good to have to need rehab to want to do some work, because that forces equity into the property. So when you do work to improve a property, the value goes higher, and that's why we usually take that route, especially if you didn't if you didn't grow up in wealth, if nobody left you wealth to inherit, right? Because that's a different ball game. But if you have to grow from something, you need help. You need those kind of lenders that would just look at the numbers and can fund you as many properties as you need for the year. So they don't have a cap as to how many properties they can fund you in a year, if it makes sense. If you're and then coming up with the other side of the deal where you need to come up with that 5% or 10%, as the case may be, there are a lot of ways. So if you're doing traditional funding, for instance, like when you're buying your own personal home, it's kind of tricky where you get money from. You have to disclose, and sometimes those methods of funding would not qualify. So you cannot, for instance, borrow from your credit card or get money from your credit card and go and put that as down payments on a property if you were buying for yourself. But you can do that in the real estate investing world. It doesn't matter, right? So you have a lot of leeway if you were doing that for real estate as opposed to doing it for your own personal self. So it's very different, and that's why when people are most concerned about the money, then it's not, to me it's not the primary concern. It's not something that's what you need to know is how to find those properties and how to analyze, actually. So because you got to analyze before you find our properties, right? so that in your finding process, you know a property that makes sense for what you're looking at. Then the other thing is, what do you want to do? You can do just own assets that produce passive income for retirement, or so that you have something on the side if you had to quit your job, or if you just needed additional income, or if you needed ways to save on taxes. There are a lot of different benefits to real estate investing. So it can be something for now and it can be something for the future. And it's usually is both for most of us, right? So it's both for most of us. uh, s- if you've been doing real estate investing, you probably have a good chunk of cash flow by now, and that helps with the present as well. But in addition, you're also not only getting the tax benefits from one year to another, but you're also getting the appreciation, the property getting higher in value year after year, right? So it gets higher in value, and that's really what makes up of generational wealth. And when a property keeps going high in value, or a group of properties go higher in value, you can actually pull out of that to buy more properties, to invest in more properties. So it's not just investing for the future, but also for the present. So, did I answer that question? How much do you think I need to get started? If you have a good credit score, let's say you're at high 600s, 700s plus, then I would say for the most part, you don't need to worry about your 5% or 10% because you can supplement. If you don't have that, if you let's say you're at 620 and up, I can possibly say the same thing, but you're going to do private money. So you do another source of funding, right? um it's different from what you're doing for yourself because you can just apply for funds on your own, um for business funds, right? And it's just different steps to doing that. So at the end of the day, depending on your property price points, you're probably not even talking a lot of money, right? So how much you need will depend on whether you have any leverage advantage like a good credit score or not. Okay, if you don't have a good credit score, can you partner, or can you are you flexible to do private money? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to be limited to what you alone can come up with, right? You don't want to be limited to what you have. You want to be able to have unlimited funding, right? So there are lots of different ways. There are even creative financing options. There's seller financing, subject to a lot of things that you can do. So it's a real estate investing is a creative world. So regardless of where you are with credit score, if you are definitely if you're at 500 credit score, which is poor, you have work to do. It's not impossible, but you have work to do while you improve your credit score. You will have to rely on creative options and also maybe even partnerships if you want. If you're at 600 plus credit score, 600 plus or 620 plus, it's definitely where hard money comes in. And then now you're talking of supplementing that private money, all of that stuff. So, yes, we do deals all the time without bringing money out of our pocket, even though people don't see how that's even possible. But I say it all the time. Okay, it sounds like are you are you being tricky? But yes, that's how it works. We kind of funds from here and funds from there makes it 100% financing where you don't need to bring money out of pocket except you want to. Okay. Okay, and I see a question here saying this is from Martin. Hey Martin, how would you analyze a multifamily property duplex? I came across a wholesale deal, but the wholesaler's numbers are different than mine. Okay, send me an email since we can't analyze here. See what other. But just generally speaking, right? Do you want to do? It's just a duplex. Why don't you do per unit? If it's exact the same, just replicate it per unit. Remember that anything 4 units or less falls under residential. 4 units or less falls under residential, and 5 units and up falls under commercial. So it's really easy to analyze 4 units or less. You just use the ratios. Yeah. And you still do the ARV style, the same thing you would do for single family, but twice this time. Okay. If there are any follow up questions, because you are coaching, did you just find a deal? Because you're in coaching, you can reach out to me behind the scenes. So that is fine. Okay. Let's go to Instagram here. It says, see, how can you achieve unlimited funding? Well, I guess that's what I just said. That you combine different sources of funding. Unlimited funding means unlimited deals that are good. Unlimited good deals. These lenders want you to succeed. Well, nothing goes for nothing. They want you to succeed because they make money when you succeed. When you bring good deals, they see that you have done a deal and you did it well, and you have a little bit of a track record. Maybe in the beginning you don't have that much of a track record and they couldn't fund you at 100%, and they said bring 5% to the table, because we have a lender within the coaching also that does 100% purchase price, 100% repairs. So with that lender alone, that's unlimited funding, but that lender would need some experience, right? So let's say down the line you're doing all of that, but to get started you only need that 5% or 10%. That 5 or 10% can come from other sources of funding which we mentioned, right? So you can do private money, you can do business funding. There are a lot of different things you can do. You can even do your 401k. Guys, you gotta diversify your 401k at this point. With the stocks markets being the way it is, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket because it hurts. Like a lot of stories out there about what's going on with their stocks and all of that stuff. So you want to diversify your investments and move some into real estate, which is definitely stable, right? Even if you experience some variability, it's usually short-term variables. But in the long run, if you're looking at a 10-year margin, a 5-year margin, usually you have that upward growth. So yes, I definitely feel you on that one. But yes, it sounds too good to be true that you can have unlimited funding, but you can, as long as you have the right deals. Okay. Hi. My mom says, great job. Thank you. Hi. I have 764 credit. I'm just reading a question on Instagram. I have 764 credit score, which is very good. Can you please share some lending advice? Hmm. So we actually have a lender within our program that does anything 760 and up puts you at the 95% coverage mark, actually, even if you don't have experience. So you just need to come up with 5% of the purchase price. But meanwhile, 5% of the purchase price is usually less because the property needs work. So let's say the property will sell eventually for 300,000 and you're buying for 150. 5% of 150 is just 7,000 and change. 7,000 and change can come from anywhere. It can come from, if you have a 764 credit score, it can come from your business credits. You can apply for business lines of credit. You open up your LLC, you have business lines of credit, you have business loans, maybe you can do startup capital for your business. Usually these funds, when you put them into the property, based depending on what you're doing, if you're holding the property, it comes out at refinancing and back to the lender or back to where you got it from. Usually it's a 4 month duration. And if it's something you're selling, usually you sell within a year, right? So the fund goes back to where it was borrowed from. If you're holding the property, then you're eventually switching the mortgage to a more stable one. That's where it's lending in the world of real estate investing is more like a partnership between the lenders and you. So when you say you're in debt, it's not the same in real estate investing. It's almost as though you and the lenders have some you have we call it equity, so you have a hold on the property, right? So you enjoy that partnership, and that helps you to grow wealth. Okay, and I hope that that's I don't see with a 764 credit score, I think you're unlimited. And how do you another question here says, how do we get or find lenders that fund 100%? We do have those in our coaching as well. You can look around too, but you can send a message or something. But they do it based on affiliation. Do you know what you're doing? Because they also want to be sure that you're not going to mess up the deal. So if you have maybe some experience or you're within a program that has that, where it's already set up that way, then you enjoy that privilege even if you haven't done any deals before, you haven't had any experience. So that helps. Otherwise, you really have to call around and be careful though with scammers, because we hear that there are a lot of people out there, and that is honestly solid advice. Anybody that's telling you to bring money or to pay for anything outside of appraisal before closing is definitely a scammer, so watch out for that. Okay, another question here says, from Fly Vinyl, how do you go about finding the good deals? I'm having a hard time finding good deals. So deals is this is and I acknowledge your problem. This is definitely a problem for many, and it is a process. Now, the process of finding a good deal is, number one, it is a learning curve, and number two is time. Right, it takes time and it takes consistency, and then you have that build up of channels that you've opened up with the time and the consistency that you've put in. That means that you can't come out today and say, oh, I didn't find anything and that's it, right? So you consistently do the right things and improve on the work you're doing, and you find deals. You actually open up that channel of deal flow, right? Over time. So it's not something you give up on. You keep doing what you're doing if you're doing it the right way. Now, that's the biggest thing. Are you doing it the right way? What exactly are you doing? How are you looking for deals? What kind of deals are you looking for? Right? So your concern is legitimate, but you also need to make sure you're doing it the right way and be consistent, and you will find a deal if you have all the resources you need, and you have you're setting up your search criteria the right way, whether you're looking on the market or off the market. Keep up with the consistency, and if you think that there's something you're doing wrong that's not helping with deal finding, then just update or upgrade. Okay, cool. All right, so keep typing the questions, and I think I'll take one from the ones I got before. It said, if I am currently looking to buy a property, what is the one thing to look out for to be able to say yes to it as an investment? That's a good question, because many people are afraid, right? I don't want to make a mistake, and they're not sure what they know. So, first of all, if you put your numbers together and things look good, I'll say pull the trigger. The one thing you're looking out for is the number. Then the other thing is the bad area. There's actually a training on the kind of properties that you should not be buying. The kind of properties I should not be buying. I'm gonna find that training. I don't know if Meg has it. Meg, do you have anything like that? Probably have two trainings of that nature. Properties to avoid or investments to avoid. I think we can make that the resource for the night. If you have that, Meg, do you remember? Can you type in the comments and let me know if you have that link? It should be okay. There is one. Okay, okay. Types of houses not to buy. I see one. Okay, cool. I actually have two links for you guys. So, um, Actually, you know what? Just type a resource in the comments if you want Meg to send that to you. If you're on IG, she's going to she's going to message you, right? But if you're private and all of that stuff, you might not see it. So check your spam and all that. If you're on Facebook, she will message you. And also Facebook, if you're not friends with Meg, it can kind of make you not see her messages. So check your spam folders on Facebook and on Instagram just to make sure that you're getting. So just type resource in the comments and you will get the two trainings. Okay, so Flyvano says, I'm doing residential. I'm doing on Instagram. Says, I'm doing residential single family homes for now. I mean, I like residential single family homes. I'm trying to find a great deal to maximize profit, but maybe there's something I'm doing wrong. Okay. What areas are you looking at and what deal are you looking for? There's some areas that don't work for certain deals, right? You know what? Meg, can you message Flyvino? And also, Flyvino, if you see, Meg, what's your Instagram name? Because, okay, so Meg's Instagram name is Meg Acquire Real Estate. Meg Acquire Real Estate. I see her on the thread. Meg, can you type on the Instagram? On Instagram. So that you can book him for like a 15-minute call and I can talk to him direct him or she, he or she directly, and we can kind of sort that out because that's very complex. Good. Hey Meg. Okay, cool. So if you want to message them directly and then have them book a 15-minute call so we can talk about that because I need to understand the process. It's kind of hard to give a blanket advice. It might not work. Okay. Okay, cool. I see that. Copy will send you a message after the live. Okay, cool. All right. It's just weird. I have to look at two different places for comments. It's fine. All right. So we're talking about this one thing to look out for. Yes, the resources solve it. So if you want that resource, you can type resource in the comments and we'll send that to you afterwards. How many hours per week do you think it takes to do a real estate deal on the side? Very good question. And what I have to say is, it really depends on you. It is a realistic goal to have if you want to do it on the side and not give up what you're doing right now to do real estate investing on the side. I'm telling you, even if you had consistently 15 minutes a day, depending on what you're doing in that 15 minutes time frame, you're dedicating that to your side business, it will grow. Okay. If you put in 30 minutes, you will get 30 minutes results. If you put in an hour, you get an hour result. Right. So that's why you see people at some point they feel like, oh, I want to be able to put in more time to this business because it's looking like it has a lot of potential if I put in a lot more time than I'm doing right now. And that's why you see people switch eventually from like a 9 to 5 to their business. So that side gig becomes a main gig because putting in that amount of hours into that side gig will give more return on investment. So, how many hours do you really need? You can start with any amount of hours you have. I often talk about a lot of people in our program that are extremely busy with multiple jobs, working 40 to 80 hours a week, but still doing deals, right? Is it easy? Maybe not. It might not be easy. Nothing in life is easy. Nothing good for that matter is even a vacation can be stressful. Even a vacation can be stressful. So it's not going to be easy. Nobody says ever tells you it's going to be easy, but you have to do what you have to do, especially if you're sacrificing for the future. You'd rather do it now than in another year or two. You have nothing to show for all the listening on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, and just gathering all that information. And then a couple years down the line, or a year or two, you can't really show that you've made any progress. So you have to start, a step at a time. Put in 10 minutes. Put in, and you being here is actually you putting in some time into your business, right? You listening to this live, just getting some nuggets here and there and seeing how people would approach certain questions or situations in real life is you putting in time. So you continue to do that. You can even go deeper into bigger resources. And then when you feel like you're comfortable to do your first deal, you go for it. By the time you're looking and numbers are starting to make sense on a particular property, you put in your offer and you're under contract. And that's the reality, right? That's the reality. That's how it happens for all of us. You put in your offer is accepted, and suddenly you're a real estate investor. Suddenly you're talking, big chunk, like a couple of zeros suddenly, right? So, but it does come with the work that you're putting in right now, the work also that you eventually put in to sort out the best property to buy or invest in. Okay. All right, nice. All right, so here it says, okay, how many hours is all set? What should be my real estate investing goal? What is realistic? Your real estate investing goal. So, what do you want to do? There are a lot of things you can do. You can, let's say, cash flow. Your goal can be cash flow. It can be cash flow. And cash flow means you're making monthly passive income on a regular basis from properties, right? So you're growing your cash flow. Maybe you started off with $500 a month, and then suddenly you have another property under contracts. You got another property suddenly at 1,500 a month. Suddenly you're at 2,500. You grew to 5,000 a month. You grew to 6,000 a month, and you keep going 20,000 a month, 25,000 a month. Maybe you even did Airbnb and you exploded those numbers, right? So Airbnb is not that passive in nature, but it does give you a good chunk cash flow for the most part, especially in the busy seasons like in the summer. Uh, so the cash flow can be variable year round, but overall it's pretty good if you took an average for the year. So it can be for cash flow. It can also be maybe say retirement. Let's say you're using your IRA to buy properties. So those properties are actually owned by your IRA accounts, right? So maybe you choose to move things around within your IRA into cash flow, right? But maybe you don't need cash flow right now. You just need to put that into retirement, or you just really just use a bunch of money from your retirement to tie up a good chunk of property. Now, I don't like to use the word tie up because sometimes people just tie things up for the sake of it without looking at the numbers and making sure that they have a good return on investment and the properties would not be problematic. And these are things you got to check before that. So retirement is another one, and hopefully you're not just tying up properties. You're investing in good good properties that will give you, whether you're looking for cash out or you're looking for cash flow, or property has a good chunk equity in it. So that's a good investment. Or maybe for some people, you just want to find something else to do. Maybe a 9 to 5 is not your real life desire or what you think you're cut out for. Maybe you feel like you have a lot more potential doing your own thing and putting your energy into your own thing and growing your own thing. So you're feeling like you would rather start to put in time into that right now, uh, than maybe putting time into somebody else's job. Some people, that's actually their goal. They just want to have their own business and get out of the 9 to 5 life. So, if you're asking me what should be your real estate investing goal, there are a lot of different goals that are good things to work towards. And you said what is realistic? Everything is realistic. Cash flow is realistic, and in this market, we tell our folks, you know, look for cash flow. Look at cash flow. Try things out that have that potential, right? And Retirement is realistic. It gives you a lot of time to grow that wealth. And then leaving your job also down the line, when I will say, when it starts to look like your side business, in quotes, has started to give you enough or earn you as much. Some people wanted to earn them more than maybe twice what they get on the 9 to 5 before. It really depends. Not everybody that hates their job, and also it's not a lot of people that love their jobs. Most people don't, but some people actually enjoy working. So it's realistic if eventually you want to be just a real estate investor and say, okay, you've done what you could do on the 9 to 5 side of things. Okay. Okay. And then let's see what's time. Okay. Another question here says, would it be okay for me to partner with someone if it means doing my first deal faster? So if it will help you do your first deal faster, okay. So here is what's it's okay for you to partner with someone. But here's what I always say about partnership. So make sure that partnerships are a supplemental in nature, which means a partner is bringing what you don't have to the table. Okay. So ideally, for a deal to work, somebody brings the knowledge, maybe even both parties, but somebody brings the knowledge. Okay. um and partnerships can be very diverse. So this is what you need in a partnership: you need knowledge, you need the resources, funding, sometimes, or a lot of times, you need the credit score. And yeah, I think that's that's all I can think of right now. um the deal, right? The deal is also another thing. So you need the knowledge, you need the deal, you need the let's just say you need the funding, and that's a credit score. So if you're looking at all these four items and you bring two to the table, can the other person bring the other two to the table? Many times, if you bring one of those items to the table, the other person can bring everything else. Now, that's the question for you. What is that item? If you had to bring just one of these four items to the table for somebody else to bring the other three, what would that item be? What's the most important out of all these four um, different things I mentioned? I mentioned knowledge, I mentioned the the deal, I mentioned the funding, I mentioned the credit score. Which of this would be the most important? That if you brought to the table, you can tell another person to bring everything else. What would that be as far as partnerships are concerned? Can you type that in the comments? Can you try? Somebody here says credit score. Damsel Babi says credit score. Okay, thank you for that. Any other ideas? What ideas do you guys have about that? What do you think would be that one thing that if you brought to the table, you can ask somebody else to bring everything else that's left to the table? What could that be? Oh, hi, Olayinka. How are you? Okay. Somebody else says credit score and knowledge. Really? Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. Any other ideas? If you brought something to the table, somebody says funding. Hi, sis. Says funding. And says knowledge, funding. Ooh. So if you brought something to the table, you could ask or you could get the others from a partnership. A partnership would actually be okay to bring everything else. Labor and working capital. Okay, that's good. Well, okay, you said funding, you said labor or working capital. I didn't say those. Those are not part of it for. So the deal is the most important thing. The deal. The deal brings everything else. Imagine somebody brings me a deal and I have the funding. I have the knowledge to make it work, for instance, and I have the credit score. I can take that deal to another level, right? Let's say the deal could make me $1 million or $1 million, but maybe we're splitting it in two. If I brought the knowledge on how to structure the deal, I brought the funding, right? I brought my credit score. I made money. I didn't have to find a deal. I made money. That person made money. So I made the deal happen. So the deal is the most important thing, right? And that's why it's important for you to know how to analyze the deal and how to find deals. Okay. But you guys all tried. You did a great job. Okay. So I think I'm just going to take one more question and we should be good for now. There's one question here that says, okay, what do you think is harder, finding a deal or funding a deal? I think I just said that. I just said finding a deal. Um, I just said it. Finding a deal, funding a deal. I wish I had that for you guys to answer, but funding is not the biggest issue. If a funding pathway doesn't work, a partnership or private money or what have you, there are other pathways that work for funding. So at the end of the day, whatever works is what you're putting in. So the deal is the most important. Without the deal, there's no amount of funding. There's a lot of money that sits in bank accounts doing nothing and wasting on inflation these days. People have money and have nothing to do with it, and it's sad, right? So when you bring a deal to the table, you're actually helping other people also to make the best use of their money. So the deal is finding the deal is more important than the funding. The funding will always follow a good deal. Imagine if you had the funding, if you had the deal, you didn't have a good credit score, you didn't have nothing, and let's say you were like looking around or you went to a specific group. Let's say you're on the Facebook group, the Acquirers, the Facebook group, or you're actually in the coaching program and you found someone who, wow, this is a great deal. Someone who understands the deal and can even help you structure it better. Then you split profits. You brought the deal, you still made a lot of money, even though you didn't have to bring that in. So it's very important to know how to find a deal. Now, finding a deal in 90 days is something that is highly realistic. Okay. Like I was saying to I'm trying to remember the Instagram name. I was saying to try to remember, I think it has fly vinyl, that there is a system to finding, right? Fly vinyl, I don't know how long you've been trying to find a deal for. But if your system was adjusted and you were able to find a deal better, or more, or faster, then you'll be able to find a deal more quickly. But if you're only restricting yourself to a particular area, you might not be doing yourself a lot of good. These days, and the way the market is, you have to learn how to invest out of state as well, out of where you are, because your market might be very competitive and hard to find deals. That doesn't mean that deals don't exist, right? So you don't use the market you're looking at to judge the entire market nationwide. How to do a deal out of state? We'll talk about all of that. Talk about team building. You want to go into our Facebook group and just look at the past live sessions, or if you're interested in out of state investing. So we'll have all of those resources as well. Right. Okay. So, yes, finding a deal in 90 days, definitely, definitely. We have someone who did a deal in 2 weeks. And I call her the queen. And then um definitely 1 month, there are a lot of people who are finding deals in 1 month, and there are people who are doing deals definitely in 2 months. I think most people do deals in 2 months. If you have the right system to do a deal, you should be able to. If you have the right way to look, and you're getting the right help, you should be able to. I'm not saying that it's easy, and I actually acknowledge your pain, but I'm saying that, there are ways around it to adjust, readjust, see what you can do. But if, for instance, you've been looking and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm tired, I need to take a break, and you take a break for 2 months, you come back, 2 months pass, right? And then you come back and you're saying, oh, I've been looking for a deal for 5 months. So, you took a break, right? It is work, because anything that's this huge in result and what it can do for you is definitely gonna demand something from you, and because it's not a scam. If it's a scam, it will be easy to do, right? But real estate investing is real life, real properties. You're buying properties, you're growing your wealth um, through properties and owning real estates, which, by the way, of course, is different from the stocks. It's not something that just goes up and down based on what you hear in the news. There's a demand and supply pool that really has to work for things to change in real estate investing, or in the real estate world. So it's very different. I think that we have come to. Can I get? Someone says here, can I get some info about your coaching program? Okay, cool. So our coaching program is definitely newbie oriented, and the way we do it is different. So when you come in the second week, you're basically setting up your LLC. That's your business foundation. You're also opening up your, so you approach your funding. You're opening up your business funding. So be it your business credits, cards, business, whatever it is you can do on the business side of things, depending on your FICO, right? Or you might have to wait a little if it's not doable in the second week. Maybe even a line of credits if it's possible at that point, right? But you're also, by the third week, you know how to analyze a property. So you know how to analyze by the third week, and you continue to practice that. And really, by the sixth week is when we say go for it, right? So do your deal. By the sixth week, you're able to do a deal. Before that, yeah, people have done 1 month, 1 month, 1 month, but there's still a few things to cover. So that's how we try to help you achieve your goals faster. And that's why you see people doing that faster. Are there some people that fall out of that range? Absolutely, right? Because everybody's schedule is different. What you put in, what everybody puts in is different. But you have all your resources available. You have access to coaches on call. So within the coaching program, you really just need to check your calendar and put in a time with a coach. And it's that easy. So you have that help, one-on-one help. If you're working on a deal, or if you need help with understanding, and we basically know what deals our students are working on because they feed us on everything. So it's more like, you have that one-on-one hand-holding situation where, okay, you're telling me this is the property address, this is where I'm going, this is what I want to do. You're getting advice on funding. Actually, a lot of our coaching students, their credit scores improved a lot within coaching, because by the second week you're actually doing a couple of things to improve your credit score, because the better your credit score, the better deals you get. So it makes sense. Imagine a lender covering you at 95% if you're at 760 versus less, right? Less coverage. So you're coming up with, if you have to come up with 10, 15%, it's a lot more and it's chunky, right? So it has a lot of impact. That's why the credit is an important part. You can work on it while you improve, while you do deals. If your credit is too low to work with the lenders, if your credit is less than 600 or something, then you do creative financing or you do creative deals. If you gotta put in the work. So we have 100% help within. You also need to put in your 100% into growing your own business, so you take it seriously and you do your business on the side. So that's really how it works. And it's very different. We don't, for now, we're, if you're getting in right now, you don't get kicked out of coaching, right? We don't kick people out. We build a community. We have a summit, or members only summit, also in October, where we see physically. So it will be once in a year. It will be a physical meeting where we do training sessions. We do a ball on a Saturday. We do um, property tours and a bunch of other things. Right. So that keeps you moving, and you have a community of people who can help you, who can work with you if you needed to partner on deals. And yes, but outside of coaching, you really just get, things like this, like you attend the free live sessions and all of that stuff. You can maybe implement whatever you get all over the place, but also, be careful. Yeah, it is good to have help. So that's what we do within the coaching. Yes. Okay. So yeah, if you wanted to, actually, Meg is here and can help you. If you wanted to, me to talk more about the coaching, or you want to sign up for coaching, definitely type coaching in the comments, and Meg is going to help you. And she's probably gonna just schedule you for a quick chat about that. So Meg is gonna help you. Type coach or coaching in the comments. We can I can talk to you. I will talk to you. I'll talk to you off camera. Okay. I don't think there are any other questions. If you can, just in the comments, say good night to everyone here. Just say good night, guys. Say good night, guys, and I will see you on the next one. Good night. Good night, everyone. Good night. Have a great one. Bye, guys.